main chain and Lightning Network for
Bueno,
cheap and quick transactions.
bienvenidos.
And finally,
Bueno, vamos a estar conversando aquí Atlas y yo sobre esta emisión de Why Are We Bullish de BTC Sessions. Vamos a estar comentando y traduciendo, no únicamente traduciendo, así que bueno, bienvenidos. ¿Y qué tal, Atlas? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien emocionado y quiero que esto empiece ya. Voy a tomarme un momento para arreglar aquí
Michael Saylor,
los
and
audífonos.
Jack
Voy a
Mallers.
mutear esto.
Dale,
Guys,
tranquilo, yo voy a ir
holy
comentando
crap.
aquí
Everybody's here.
con
The chat's
los que
going
nos están
wild.
acompañando. Bueno, como ven,
This is
están
crazy.
Ben,
Thank you all for being here.
quien es el que está
I'm
hablando,
just gonna quickly go
AmericanHODL,
down the line, let you guys
PReston
introduce
Pysh,
yourselves as if you
Jeff
need to.
Booth,
But
Michael
regardless,
Saylor
HODL, can
y
you start us
Jack
off? Who are you?
Myers.
Hi, I'm AmericanHODL.
La idea del show
personality, and I'd just like to say
de
hello,
BTC
Jessica.
Sessions es comentar cuáles son las razones por las que se sienten bullish con respecto a Bitcoin, etcétera. Y bueno, obviamente hoy están trayendo a un trabuco de gente. Nosotros también tratando de traer nuestro propio trabuco aquí con Atlas para conversar sobre las razones por qué se sienten alcistas. Yo hace unas semanas participé en ese show.
Bitcoiner as well.
Perdón. Y sí, lo que hacen es comentar las razones. Ahorita se está presentando Jack Mallers. Lo que hacen es comentar las razones por qué se sienten bullish y los demás van comentando como las razones y conversan y tal.
I'm the CEO of MicroStrategy and
Ahí Michael
Hello, Jessica.
presentándose, el CEO de MicroStrategy. Y nada, lo que ojalá sea interesante que conversen hoy es eso que ha estado por allí circulando sobre la posibilidad de que Michael Saylor trabaje creando herramientas de vigilancia de la cadena. Entonces, bueno, por eso estamos aquí también acompañando este stream. Y bueno, bienvenidos a los que nos acompañan. Jeff Booth ahí cerró las presentaciones de todos ahí. Ahora sí vamos a empezar, ahora sí ya se terminó la presentación. Está contando lo que les acabo de decir, que bueno, ahí es que den sus razones y por qué están bullish. Yo me siento bullish porque bueno, el mundo se está yendo a la mierda, chicos. Y bueno, tenemos Bitcoin. Afortunadamente tenemos Bitcoin. Ayer con Atlas hablábamos en Clubhouse y bueno, decíamos eso, comentábamos un poco sobre eso.
Listo, aquí estamos.
Sí, van a comentar, ¿viste? Van a comentar lo que habíamos dicho de la herramienta de análisis esa.
MicroStrategy announced its
Michael se está aclarando la hoja y todo, o sea que está recho.
part of our product suite. You said we're just acquiring and holding.
Bueno, la polémica es que Bitcoin Magazine dijo hace poco que
we are also
hoy
exploring
que
opportunities to apply Bitcoin-related technologies such as blockchain analytics into our software
viendo si de
offerings.
repente comienzan a
Mr. Saylor,
ofrecer
you have some
servicios
cyber hornets
de análisis
that
de
are
la
looking to sting
blockchain
that you,
y bueno,
might
por
need to
ahí
answer
hay
to.
gente
Can
que
you
se
enlighten
preocupó
us?
si esto se pudiese
I
relacionar
saw
con
that
el
this
IPTIC,
morning, and I
etcétera.
wasn't quite sure why the story was popping up, but I mean, the Bitcoin Magazine's a reputable source, and so then I looked, and there was an SEC filing, and so I looked, and then I realized our proxy statement dropped, and a public company generates thousands of pages of filings, and
Que
so I
está
thought, well, there
explicando
must be
por
something
qué
in the
es que de
proxy
repente
statement
esas
that they
razones
were
estaban
wanting
allí, o sea, todos
So
nos
I
timbramos.
swear to
Quien
you,
leyó eso en
I
Twitter
read my
obviamente
entire
dirá, ¿qué
proxy
es esto? Vas
statement, and I
a
read like
vas a
it's
sacar
like
también chain
100
analysis,
pages,
el
and
coño de tu
every
madre,
line,
Saylor, no puede ser.
I went and I searched for Bitcoin, and I searched all through it, and I couldn't find any reference to Bitcoin analytics. I just couldn't figure it out.
Ok. Dice que no
So
hay
then I
una
said, well,
referencia directa a
we're not
Bitcoin
doing it. I
Analytics
mean,
en
we don't have a Bitcoin analytics strategy, so I couldn't really
que
figure
no
that
tienen
out. And then later
una
on, I think Ellie
estrategia
posted
para lanzar un producto
that
así.
one sentence from the cover letter of the proxy statement.
Que
You know,
tomaron una
full
sola
disclaimer, the way
oración
this works is like
de...
an army of lawyers and marketing people along with the corporate executives draft this stuff. And that letter was drafted like 6 months ago or 4 months ago, and I had
Bueno,
and it probably went
lo
through
que
a
está
committee,
diciendo
and
es
I
que
think
esta
I
carta que
probably
circula
reviewed
por
it while
allí
I
ya
was reviewing
había
it, but
sido
I'm like
publicada hace unos 6
thousand other
meses,
things.
entonces
So I didn't actually know
que
it was in the letter. So I read it. I thought,
no es
that's
que
a little bit,
realmente
that's going
vaya
to
a
be
ser el
misleading. The
lanzamiento de
Hornets aren't
una
going to like that one.
herramienta de análisis, ni
So
mucho menos, sino
I went
bueno,
and I posted. It's like,
de repente
yeah,
hubo
if I
ahí
had to say again, I would have said it differently.
una
Bottom line
confusión
is
directamente
we're not really
con
doing
la
any
gente de
blockchain
Bitcoin Magazine.
analytics, and I
El
wouldn't
típico
want
food.
the Hornets to sting me to death.
Sí, pero
It
sabes
would
que es
be a
raro
very
porque igual Bitcoin
unfortunate
Magazine
end, and I know
es
they would end me.
Bitcoin,
So
hermano.
the right way to
Yeah.
look at it is
No,
like
no
if
es
there's one
CNN, por
sentence
ejemplo,
there
que uno
that I
diría,
would
bueno,
rewrite,
Sí,
I
CNN
sí.
would.
metiendo food y tal.
But otherwise, our strategy is we want to buy Bitcoin. That's
Nuestra
the
estrategia es
strategy,
vamos a
hold
comprar
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin y vamos a
The
holdear
So-
rest is
Bitcoin. Es
like
lo
not
que
happening.
dice
So
Michael
like
de
on
nuevo.
on a scale of what's the good an analytics company on a scale of the bad one, Chainalysis, all the way down
A ver,
to Glassnode.
están
How
comentando
evil
si
are
van
you?
a hacer
I don't
Chainalysis o
think
si van a
we're
hacer
not
algo
evil.
como
Okay, good.
But
Glassnode.
our only goal would be to do something that would be good for Bitcoin. So we found a
Bueno,
way.
están diciendo que
If I
van a
could
hacer
find a
algo que
metric
sea
that
bueno
would
para
convince every
Bitcoin.
institutional
Ahí
investor
siempre hay
to
que
buy more
tener eso
Bitcoin,
con
then I would publish
pincitas,
that.
bueno.
And if we
No
could
sé
use
si
our
Saylor es un
technology to
pleb
make
como
Bitcoin more
nosotros, Atlas,
secure
yo
for
no
every
creo.
hodler, then maybe I would do that. But right now,
No.
we've been scanning. We don't really see anything that merits commercialization. So you can expect that we'll use our
Claro,
technology
y
as
además
a
es
force
una
of
respuesta
good
que uno
should
se
we find an
esperaría, pues
opportunity to do
que
so.
diga, no, nosotros no
Perfect.
estamos trabajando
I
en
like
eso
that
y
answer.
tal.
But
Pero bueno.
what I will
Ah.
say is
Sí.
any plebs that are watching that
Ajá.
don't
Así que
trust
para
and
los
prefer to
plebs que
verify,
están viendo que
if Mr.
verifiquen el
Saylor
documento.
happens to become evil, which I'm not expecting, but if it
Que
happens,
si
I have a
Michael se
list of
vuelve
easy things
negativo
that you can do to just protect
o
yourself from on-chain
demoníaco,
analytics. So you can coin join.
hay
You
una
can
gran
use
lista de cosas con
non-KYC
las que uno se puede
exchanges like
proteger
BISC. You can learn
del
about
análisis de la
UTXO
cadena.
control. You can
O sea, igual
utilize
todo
things
lo que
like the
está
Lightning Network.
enumerando es cierto,
And as long
pero
as you
bueno,
understand the
tener
trust trade-offs,
un
you can
nuevo
also
vigilante de la
utilize something like
cadena no
liquid
es algo
sidechain
que
with
uno
confidential
aplaudiría bajo ninguna
transactions.
circunstancia, pues.
Now,
Al
conveniently, I
menos
also
Taylor está diciendo
posted links
que no
to
tiene ese
tutorials on
interés.
all of the above
Y bueno, bien
preemptively in the
por
show
Ben
notes. So if you're
BTC
curious, you
Sessions
can
que
go
sí le
and do
terminó
all of those
preguntando
things
sobre
right now. But with that said, thank you, Michael, for getting that out of the way. Let's dive into the real
Okay.
show because
Ya,
Bueno,
ahora
a lo
this
sí,
is
bullish.
what
ahora sí vamos
A
al
lo
everybody's
que
show
training
como
importa.
for.
tal.
We're all super bullish. I already know that. Let's just go into it. I'm going to start us off with a topic and then we'll get rolling. Preston will
Bueno,
pull up
si nos
next.
quieren
But
comentar algo las personas que nos
my
están
reason for being bullish
acompañando,
right now
si quieren
is
comentar
that
sus
I
razones por qué
believe that the
están bullish.
plebs still have the home field advantage. And the reason for this, I believe, is twofold. One is mindset. And two is actually, to me, ease of entry. And there may be some pushback on this from the panel.
Está
But
diciendo por qué él
let's
se
cover
siente
the ease of
bullish,
entry first.
porque
I
los
think that the
plebs
plebs are
tienen el
nimble enough, like they
mindset
don't
que
have
es
the
y
red
porque
tape,
ahora es mucho
right? They
más
don't have
fácil
to deal
entrar a
with red
Bitcoin.
tape in acquiring
Los
Bitcoin.
plebs estamos arrasando.
You know, a lot of the plebs
Eh.
watching here have had the pleasure of front running Michael Saylor for many, many years. So, but let's put aside the fact that his DCAs destroy our
Le
regular
decía ahí
stacks.
que los plebs tuvieron mucho
But it's very
tiempo
easy for
pudiendo
individuals
acumular
to get into
delante
Bitcoin.
de un
Institutions,
perfil de
a little bit
inversionista
more
como el
red
de
tape right
Michael
now.
Saylor,
But
que
I
Michael
think
Saylor
where
entró con
the
fuerza fue el
plebs
año
really
pasado,
pull
muchachos,
ahead
así que
currently and
igual
why it's still a
como un
plebs
nuevo
game and a
todavía.
plebs world is because the rest of the world is not in that mindset. They don't understand what's happening.
El resto
They're
del
still
mundo
in a
no
fiat
tiene
mindset
como
produced by
esa
a
percepción que
fiat
tenemos
world.
los bitcoiners, que
You get
tenemos los
examples
plebs
like Keith
sobre
McCullough.
lo que está
You
pasando
know,
con
he's
el
trying to
mundo.
time
Mucha
everything. He's
gente,
talking
o
about
sea,
quad
inclusive
poor
seguramente las
previously with
personas que nos
Michael's interview,
acompañen escucharán
which quickly turned
de
into
gente
quad
que está
poor.
pendiente
You
de
have
hacer
Jim
plata, que
Cramer
está pendiente de
bragging
resolver el
about
día a día.
dumping half his
Eso es
stack,
válido, pero
selling
bueno,
his funny money
no
for
es
real money.
suficiente,
Just
¿no?
the other day,
Creo que no es lo
he's
que nos
celebrating
interesa
that.
en
They don't
profundidad.
understand the game. The plebs
No
do.
entienden el
It's
juego.
not about dollar accumulation. It's the only
Y
number
ahora
that
está
matters is
hablando
how many
del,
sats are actually being held.
del tipo este que
So,
vendió
you know,
Bitcoin
I
para
see
pagar
that
lo del
Bitcoiners are
mortgage.
kind of miles ahead in this line of thinking. And some of the high net worth individuals are just getting to this place. They're just, you know, we see the early inklings of it, but the plebs still have
También dice
a
que
whole
muchas
lot
de
of
las
high net worth
personas
individuals to front run
que
still.
tienen mucho dinero y que
Now,
están
when they
entrando a
do get it,
Bitcoin tienen es la
that
idea de
red
acumular
tape, I
dólares.
think, will go
Y
away. It will
ya
become a lot
muchos
easier for them to
Bitcoiners
get in.
están enfocados en
But
acumular Bitcoin.
right now, and I'm looking at
Y
all the plebs
obviamente a
right now,
pesar de que
you
el
do have
capital
an
tendrá
opportunity
mucho
to kind of tip the
más
scales,
poder
to
para
abandon
acumular,
your fiat slavery
bueno,
and build
los plebs
dynasties
están más
on a
pendientes de
foundation of
comprar
immutable code.
Bitcoin
So
en todo
please
momento.
don't
Entonces, bueno,
fucking waste it. I'm going to pass it down the line
y
here.
tenemos
If
un
anybody
tiempo
has
allí
comments
de
about the idea
ventaja
that
frente a estos grandes
this is kind
capitales
of
en Bitcoin que no han
a
entrado,
unique
no
moment in
han
time for plebs
encarecido
to tip the scales. I think I'm maybe
completamente
going to start here with
Bitcoin
HODL
todavía. Bueno,
because he embodies a pleb pretty good.
Si
Yeah, I've
quieres,
talked
bájale
about this
un poquito
before. I think our culture
volumen.
has just pervasive nihilism going on, and you know this
¿Cómo?
degen trading, whether it's on Wall Street Bets and GameStop and AMC or it's Doge
Para que le bajes
or
un poco
whatever
al
it is
volumen.
a fundamentally like
Exacto, ahí.
nihilistic, fatalistic position. You're saying,
Sí,
listen, my
ahí
life
está
is
mejor.
crap, and it's going to be crap for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
So might as well YOLO it all in.
Ahora está hablando AmericanHODL,
Maybe I'll get a
que
Lamborghini
antes
after, maybe
era
not. It doesn't matter to me
completamente
because my life is
seudónimo,
already
ahora ya le
bad,
vemos la
right?
cara.
Whereas Bitcoin is
Panita de
bad,
Atlas.
it is rational optimism.
Sí, hermanito mayor.
Building, for a
Sí,
hopeful
bro,
future.
prácticamente lo que está
Family,
diciendo es que
prosperous
el
life,
nihilismo y
and the
la,
American
el
dream is overall
pesimismo
sold, you know. So like
se
I'm
quedó
always
atrás y los
skeptical of forcing
bitcoiners están
people to get
adoptando una
there,
nueva ola
instead of people
optimista
chasing the USD gains.
Yeah, I
y no,
agree.
sí, no son los que
Now let's
persiguen
go to the other
la
side of the
ganancia
aisle
del
here.
dólar.
Michael, you came in last year like a tidal wave, and
Ahora le están
I'm
haciendo
curious
preguntas de nuevo
what your thoughts are on
a
this
Michael que
dynamic
llegó a
of
Bitcoin en
people that are
2020.
nimble enough as individuals, and I'm talking more percentage of net worth, to be able to get it into Bitcoin and understand the value of doing so. Are you seeing the inklings of, I guess I know you are, but I'll let you speak here. What are you seeing on your end in terms of mindset?
Le pregunté sobre qué perfil de gente, qué perfil de pensamiento está alrededor de él en este momento.
Everything about Bitcoin, and if you're a genius, you might figure it out in 10 hours. And if you're impatient and you spend 1 or 2 hours, like you can see it, the people that like they buy it, they sell it, they love it, and then they sell half of it.
Está describiendo cómo es el mercado, cómo es la gente que está alrededor de Bitcoin. Ahorita lanzará, me imagino, porque es que a él sí, porque a él le hizo ruido, le terminó haciendo clic como tal.
To understand what they're doing, have the conviction, and they have strong hands. And I think there's a lot of people, you know, I went and I talked to, I don't know how many.
Bueno, convicciones, manos duras, es algo que seguramente una persona que está recién entrando a Bitcoin no conoce, pero si ya tienes al menos un ciclo, sabes que hay momentos en ese proceso en donde uno duda, no sé, necesitas estudiar más, aprender más, conocer más.
You know, you can make $1 billion here, and it's the easiest $1 billion you're ever going to make. All you have to do is buy $1 billion of Bitcoin and announce it in
Bueno,
public.
y está explicando cómo va a ser la forma más sencilla de hacer dinero como un inversionista de envergadura. Bueno, comprar una posición fuerte, $1,000 millones de dólares, y duplicar esa posición en dólares, pero bueno,
Qué buen
tocando
tipo.
otra
Lo voy a
vez.
tratar de hacer.
Tengo $1,000 millones de dolaritos aquí en el bolsillo.
But then I hear, Yeah, well, we bought $350 million and then we sold it at 25,000, or we bought it at 15, we sold it at 30, or we sold half of it at 30.
Está
Or
explicando
like,
algunos
yeah, we did
casos en donde
this and
hubiese
we,
podido salir en
but it got
ganancia y
ahead
tal,
of it. It
pero
got ahead of itself at
no tiene
37,000,
mucho
so we took
sentido,
half
¿no?
the
Porque
position
igual
on.
la
And I'm
tesis
like, ugh,
de Michael es
and
más
the point is, like, there are people in
tener
the
el
world that'll buy
Bitcoin como un
500 million
activo
of
de
this
su
stuff and still
tesorería,
won't put
más que
more than 2
especular
hours into
sobre
research.
si va a crecer o no.
And then, and then they'll
Que es
dump it
lo
after
que
they get
comentaban al
50%,
principio de la
runoff.
mente con la que uno entra a Bitcoin.
Do you think that's going to be a prevailing theme like through the year, where companies make crazy gains and then they dump a good chunk of it?
I think
Ajá,
that
le
it's
preguntó si piensa que
Bitcoin is much more
compañías
collared now. People,
comprarán
I
Bitcoin
think
para
it's
sacar
roughly
ganancia y
30%, down 15%, up
dompean
30,
el
down
precio.
20. It's because these hedge fund and institutional investors that they know enough to know that maybe they should buy some, but they don't know enough to know not to sell it. So I
Que
think that they're the ones
está
that they buy
escribiendo el
in 'cause
perfil de
it's their trading
inversionista
idea, and then they
institucional que de
sell it
repente ya tiene
after it
interés en
runs up
comprarlo,
50% or take
no se
half off.
termina de
They feel
decidir,
really
pero
smart about
seguramente en
that.
algún punto, por como siempre han manejado las inversiones, pues
I can't
les
remember who said it.
interesará tomar un porcentaje de ganancia,
But
porque
and then
así
it comes
funcionan,
down
así
again. They're like,
trabajan.
well, I sold it 40,000, but it hit 30,000. I'll buy back in. And so they're, you could hate on them because they're selling when it's high, but then when it comes, the same people that will sell it as a trading idea up 50, they'll buy back in because they know it's a good idea if it goes down, and so they're stabilizing the entire
Estaba
asset
escribiendo allí
as
como
and
si
I guess that's good,
sales en un precio
right?
muy alto, puedes esperar
But
una corrección y recomprar,
if there's no one to sell it, like
pero
I've been
puede ser
saying
que
this
haya
since
un
it was
momento en donde
10,000, I'm
no
like, what
haya
have you been
suficiente
selling me for?
oferta en el
Like, why would I
mercado
sell
como
this to you?
para
I
que
can't believe.
puedas
But
recomprar la
my
cantidad de
friend
Bitcoin que
Eric White
tenías.
says, Mike, if there's no one on the other side of the trade, you couldn't have bought it.
Yeah.
So we kind of need someone to be a skeptical mercenary when it goes to 30. So other people that all the people
Entonces
you
está
were
diciendo
30,
que de todas maneras,
that you
suponiendo
started
que haya ese
stacking when it was
perfil de
30,
inversionista,
they
y esto es
couldn't have
bastante
stacked
interesante porque uno
if
no
there
está
wasn't some
acostumbrado
skeptical
a eso.
institution that was
El
selling it
perfil de
when they were
inversionista
coming in.
institucional que pueda entrar a Bitcoin como un mercenario para tomar ganancias,
I'd
para
agree.
hacer lo que
Let's toss
sea,
it to
igual es
Preston. Preston, do you
necesario,
have any thoughts
porque
on
trae
this, like the dynamic
importantes
between
cantidades
the
de
plebs, the nimble plebs
capital
stacking sats ahead
a
of
la
institutions
economía
getting
de
in?
Bitcoin. Y bueno, o
In a
sea,
way, it almost seems like
de todas maneras el pleb se puede favorecer de
I like the biology
de
comparisons where
ese
the white blood cells
aumento
can
en la
take on
masa
a
monetaria
parasite,
dentro de Bitcoin.
and I kind of see that being
Pero está
analogous
hablando
to what
Preston
you've
Pysh.
seen play out
Atlas,
since
¿qué
the
es lo que es?
beginning, which is
Háblame.
you have a bunch of people who are able to figure it out very quickly, and they've just been
Estás muy
biting away at the
silencioso.
parasite of fiat printing.
Sí,
and
estoy escuchando
just everything
estos,
happening on a global scale.
estos
Everyone
pesos
believes that
pesados.
there's no end in sight. In fact, the incentive structure is it's just going to keep on going.
Preston Pysh tiene un
And
podcast
in order to
que a
take
las
Yo iba
personas
a
que nos
decir
están
algo, sí,
escuchando,
yo iba a decir
le-
algo.
of people
Que
Lánzate.
esto es lo que
to
decía Saylor
continue to
ahorita de
figure it
los
out,
mercenarios.
understand it,
eh,
do the hard work like
es
Michael
interesante
Saylor,
porque la
hang
gente a
out
veces tiene
to fully
la duda
understand
como
and
que
troubleshoot and ask
¿qué
themselves
pasa
the
si
right
las
questions in order to
instituciones se
apply
quedan con
the thing
un
that's
gran
going well? So when
porcentaje
you
del
look back,
suministro?
why is it
Y
so
esto
hard?
parece
Why
ser
is
como que la
there
manera natural
lobbying
de que eso no
efforts? There's
suceda,
people
el
that are
escepticismo y
managing a lot
falta
of
de
money in
convicción de
order to
algunas
win this.
instituciones que
I
revenden
read
y redistribuyen otra vez ese suministro.
article about
Entonces,
the yuppie economy or the yuppies not being able to figure out
Yes.
perfectly
y bueno, aquí
what they
Preston en su
described kind of
Preston
what's going on and
explicando
the
cómo
transforming
con
system.
Tango se acabaron los
And
sats,
this
mejor dicho, en
mindset,
Luna,
this
ya
ego
mismo.
associated with, well, I'm the reason that I've accomplished this. It's because of my superior knowledge and why I'm so
Preston
excellent.
Pysh tiene
why I'm
tremendo
in this
podcast.
elevated
Les
position
recomiendo
of
que lo
how
busquen.
close of vicinity I am to the
Brutal.
printer.
Y
So
el episodio que
for
hizo
somebody to be
con
told
Michael
that
Saylor
that's
está
not why,
burda de bueno, de pana.
or that's not how the system works, and this really inconvenient truth, if you're right about all the things that we're talking about, people don't want to hear that. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to hear it. It's super inconvenient if you're right,
Claro.
and so they just default back to, well, I've been managing money for 30 years, and there's no way that something
Flexing
is
allí,
right. They just
manejando
default
dinero
back to
durante
despair. So
30
it's
años.
kind of it's an interesting dynamic to see
Me
play out on
quisiera
a
manejar plata
macro
así.
scale, but I fully believe that's kind of what's
Sí,
taking place.
Yo no tengo ni 30 años todavía.
Jeff, what have you noticed in terms of
Ahora viene Jack Mallers de Strike. Ojalá Strike llegue a Venezuela o llegue a Colombia. Bueno, por lo menos para que Atlas nos cuente cómo se usa la
Claro.
vaina.
Sí. Ey, no, yo
Jeff, sorry,
quiero que venga rápido Strike, en serio.
There you go.
Thank you. We measure a system from the system we're in.
No, mentira.
And so it's really hard for people to
Jeff Booth.
understand that most people are measuring that system and all their interactions from that system while trying to understand a different system. And if you just,
Este pana también hace unos análisis macroeconómicos y de finanzas súper brutales. De todas maneras, en el link de la descripción está el link a la transmisión en vivo en inglés. Ahí pueden ver todos los detalles de cada uno de los invitados. Que bueno, está brutal. Está haciendo un comentario sobre cómo Bitcoin empodera o le da más poder a los individuos. Es un elemento clave de cómo, y que también explica bastante esta idea de que los plebs pueden tener una oportunidad con Bitcoin, porque si hace tanto énfasis en la responsabilidad individual y en la capacidad que tenga el individuo de entrar a esos mercados. Bueno, puedes comparar un pleb acumulando desde hace 5 o 6 años Bitcoin con lo que pueda estar haciendo hoy por hoy un venture capital entrando hoy a Bitcoin. Bueno, más o menos las mismas cantidades de Bitcoin van a tener. Y bueno, ahí el consejo de siempre: salva a tu familia, salva a tus amigos, a tu gente cercana. No, no es que vas a estar siendo el amigo Bitcoin de todos y tal. La gente se pone fea, la gente se pone envidiosa, bueno. Asumen que Bitcoin es para ricos, que uno es rico, yo no sé.
Es raro, sí, es un cuento raro. Mejor a las personas que te importan y que no te van a hacer nada.
Como Atlas, que está ahí ayudando a la F.
In the past, come on board, and it almost gave me a sigh of relief seeing that my family are somewhat insulated.
A mí lo único que no me gusta de este formato es que no sé si están viendo que cuando tú no estás participando estás ahí así como
sí. No, es que todos ellos están que se hablan, porque todos tienen mucho que decir, una línea muy pesada.
The true family man, the Bitcoin family.
Ahora sí viene Jack.
What are your thoughts? I mean, you very
Creo que Jack ya no está en El Salvador.
Jack tiene mi edad. Bro, Jack tiene mi edad. Me hace sentir mal todos los días.
Yeah, and from that foundation,
bueno, yo tengo más edad, así que me puedo sentir peor.
So, what are your thoughts on the dynamics here as different types of people come into this market?
Le está preguntando por los diferentes perfiles de gente que participan en Bitcoin desde mercados en desarrollo como el de El Salvador. Bitcoin, una red abierta.
Built-in economies of scale and network effects that are far superior. And Michael's drawn parallels before to like the iOS App Store and what that was able to develop and inspire, and the network effects that were inherent.
Sí, claro,
hablando de la red.
Sí, de lo mismo, del efecto de la red. Exacto, de que es un sistema abierto, donde todo el mundo puede contribuir. Yo he escuchado a Jack Mallers varias veces hablar de esto con PReston.
Es que además es también parte del caso de uso de Strike. Ese logo que tiene acá en el pecho Jack es de su empresa, que utiliza Lightning Network para facilitar puentes de dinero entre el mundo fiat y Bitcoin. Y dice que al final el acceso a ellos no les interesa un coño, pues que si no hay acceso ellos pueden crearlo con las redes que tienen. Hay liquidez en todas las monedas, hay liquidez en todos los países, entonces lo que tienes que buscar es conectarlo y es mucho lo que se está haciendo con Lightning. Ya que está, ya que entró con fuerza, es la sangre nueva, no joda.
La casta.
Yo quería que en la pantalla de 3 se viera el show en vivo, pero es que bueno, me prestaron fue la cámara hoy, no la he instalado, muchachos, pero ya pronto vendrá. Que vean que, que estamos mejorando. Jack, no nos importa, háblale, Jack.
Bitcoin is a self-fulfilling prophecy. In that sense, it's a snowball rolling down a hill. In that sense, it's a vicious cycle.
O sea, ya estamos en un punto en donde decir eso que acaba de comentar Jack, de que Bitcoin es una profecía que se cumple a sí mismo, ya no suena tan loco. O sea, 12 años después, ya las empresas que se prometía que iban a venir en 2018 ya están aquí. El halving acaba de suceder el año pasado. Bueno, estamos. Y no importa. A Bitcoin no le importa nada.
Sí, y lo que dice Jack es cierto, como que esto va a ser sin precedentes lo que va a pasar. Incluso para las personas que ya estaban en el espacio.
I don't know what you are doing with your life. That's the kind of rant that I like to hear from Jack. All of your interviews.
Jack es el que tiene la energía de los rants. Veo que los demás estuvieron muy polite.
Dale a Hodl tiempo.
Bueno, también, es verdad. Hodl un ratico.
So smash that like button, give this a share. Let's keep going. I gotta get to PReston Pysh, and we're gonna get, now that we've kind of wrapped this topic, we're gonna get his reason for being bullish. Preston.
Okay. Ahora van a comenzar la ronda con Preston porque es que él está bullish, pues a ver, contarnos. Todo el mundo debería tener Bitcoin en su portafolio en este momento. O sea, están diciendo vainas que hace unos años hubiesen sonado como, a ver, este chavo así tan loco, pero ya hoy por hoy. Ahorra si sean $5 en Bitcoin cada semana, no jodas. Ya, no te estamos pidiendo que compres toda tu casa.
No, yo sí le digo a las personas como,
is now way more than it was in 2017. At the end of 2017, you had a cash settled CME futures market that was stood up right there kind of at the last minute.
Voy a volverlo
Aquí está hablando cosas.
Escuchen el podcast de Preston, escuchen el podcast de Preston. Está haciendo el análisis de cómo están los mercados actualmente. Las opciones que obviamente Michael Saylor ha dicho una y otra vez que tuvo a su disposición para invertir y explicando por qué, inscrito en el contexto económico, no tiene sentido ir a esos productos si tienes la oportunidad de estar en Bitcoin.
Okay, they're just wanting to capture this risk.
Los tacos de Atlas.
40% risk-free and not even hold Bitcoin at the end of the day. But in order to put that trade on in a neutral kind of way, I have to lock up coins in order to capture it. How the hell?
Sigo libre.
Back in the box.
Sigo libre.
Right? Because when
está describiendo la oportunidad de inversión que estás dejando ir si no entras a la exposición en Bitcoin, de al menos 40% de apreciación. Y obviamente las cifras, si lo consideras anualizado, es mayor, pero bueno, al menos 40% frente al resto de instrumentos de inversión que hay en el mercado tradicional, obviamente como que un no-brainer ahí elegir Bitcoin.
That claws more and more Bitcoin off the market. Okay, I don't know how it stops. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it reverses. I don't know, but I do know one thing. I find it extremely bullish, and then I also see it bullish over on the borrowing and lending side. And I'm not trying to promote that people go out and borrow and lend and do all these fancy tricks, these fancy financial tricks, because really kind of all you got to do is just buy Bitcoin and hold it. But
Ahora nos está
all these things that
diciendo,
are
compre
happening
Bitcoin,
in the
compre Bitcoin,
ancillaries, all
compre
the network
Bitcoin.
effects that Jack is
Compre
talking
Bitcoin si
about, all this
necesita
building and this
emitir deuda
construction
contra
from
su
an engineering
Bitcoin,
standpoint,
si
the
necesita
capital
emitir
right
deuda
now,
para comprar,
okay,
como en el caso de
is
Michael.
nuts.
Así
It's
que bueno.
absolutely nuts. And I just don't know how you put the genie back in
Esto-
the bottle.
esta-
So when
estos
Michael
comentarios
says
así
things like,
suenan,
all your models are
suenan raros,
destroyed,
suenan como si
it
de
keeps going up
pana estuviésemos
forever.
en otro
Laura.
momento
There's a reason,
histórico.
Laura, there's a
Pero la
reason that
realidad es
people are saying
que
these things, and it's not because
no, o
it's
sea,
wishful
estamos
thinking, it's
allí.
because there's mathematics behind
La
the stuff
realidad es
that's
esta, o sea,
happening. And at the
matemáticamente,
root of
como
all
está
of it is
diciendo,
this proof
el
of work
contexto
protocol that's
global,
just systematically clawing
macrofinanzas,
fiat currency
todo
into it and eating
apunta
it
a que las
nonstop.
monedas
That's why
fiat
I'm bullish.
están pasando un momento fuerte.
Would this be, is
Y
this
bueno, por
the
eso él está
contango
bullish en
slash
Bitcoin.
sat
Ahí nos
squeeze
preguntaba
that I see
Julio qué
all over
estamos viendo.
Twitter? Is
Estamos
this your reference?
viendo el
Yeah, that's
show
what I thought.
de
Now, I mean,
BTC Sessions, Why
the
We Are
beautiful
Bullish,
thing there is, I mean, play
con
stupid games, win stupid
panel
prizes, right? And
súper
you have
Legendario.
de calidad.
All
Y bueno,
Stars.
estamos aquí Atlas y yo
from what I understand,
comentándoles
are not
y
playing the stupid
traduciéndoles
games.
algunas
Like,
ideas y
you've got
echando vaina
Saylor
aquí a la vez.
just dollar
Estrenando
cost
conversaciones
averaging
de
us all
plebs.
into oblivion. You've got Jag building amazing shit and, building stuff for the plebs. You've got HODL selling minivans or selling whatever vehicles, riding ET bikes to stack more sats. And you've got Jeff Booth over here advising people of the perils of not embracing Bitcoin. So
we bring Jeff for the sex appeal. I mean, it's
it's true.
The cowboy.
Yeah, it's hat tipping intensifies. I know. I'll let Jeff. Do you want to tag on anything to that? Do you have any thoughts on what Preston said?
Yeah, I've talked to
Bueno,
Preston
recuerden que el
a bunch
formato
about
del
this,
programa
but
de
there's
Ben, de
130
BTC Sessions, es
trillion
así,
dollars that maybe
van,
of real interest bonds today.
cada uno da una
So
razón
on
de
your
por qué
best
están
day,
tan
you're gonna
bullish.
lose money.
Preston acaba de dar la suya,
Best day.
haciendo
There is
sobre
no way
todo
out of
énfasis en el
Yo
contexto
creo,
macroeconómico.
We're going to,
Sí,
and so
dime.
yo,
and remember,
yo
that's
creo
the
que
risk-free
deberíamos
rate that every other
dejarlos que ellos
calculation is
den
built on top.
la explicación completa y
And
nosotros
people call
después
Bitcoin a risk.
damos como el resumen de 10 segundos.
It's an asymmetric bet,
Okay.
but it's actually it might be the greatest risk-free trade in the world, right? It's the greatest bet in the world because all of the risk is on the other side of the coin. But people misinterpret risk because they've always lived in that system, and so it's a misinterpretation of risk. With Michael, Jack, everybody on this call, but a bunch of us have built businesses on understanding when everybody else sees something different, and you go the other way and create something with crazy risk. A lot of people think entrepreneurs are great risk takers. They're not. They're asymmetric debt takers. They understand where there's actually more risk in the existing system, and they go somewhere else. So that's what's actually happening with Bitcoin, and so all of as Preston says, this is that's going to accelerate, and as that money flows into something that's better protecting value, it accelerates.
I love it.
Ok,
Michael, I'm
bueno.
going to follow this up if you want to talk. I know that you're not playing these stupid games, but do you have any thoughts on this kind of locking up of capital in Bitcoin and like the wells running dry?
Well, I think the magic of Bitcoin, to Jack's point, is it's an open monetary network. And one aspect of the
Open Monetary Network. Podemos jugar un juego de bebidas en donde cada vez que Michael diga eso, uno bebe.
Sí.
Just like PayPal is a bank, just like Coinbase is a bank, and Binance is a bank, and every single application that handles Bitcoin is a bank, and it's a question of
Sí, el que la red sea abierta y pueda integrarse con el sistema bancario, digamos, presente, que sea interoperable, lo hace casi que indetenible porque se adapta.
On one hand, we've got an open global banking system coming, and hopefully on Lightning, right? Crossing all borders, at speed of light.
Puso bullish en Lightning.
A global money
Excelente.
an open global money market. I think Preston's describing, you could call it just global money markets, fair, equitable, competitive money markets. And in the US, you can't easily
Un mercado de
sell the
monedas
future,
abierto.
buy the spot, and capture the contango. But in Singapore, you can, or Hong Kong, you can. So if you go to FTX or you go to Binance or something, if you have the right pool of capital, you can short the future, buy the present, lock up the Bitcoin, capture 40% risk-free. And what's fascinating about that from my point of view is that
Comentando sobre las posibilidades que tienes ya una vez tienes el Bitcoin. Si emites deuda contra él, si ¿qué vas a hacer?
Comprar posiciones cortas para hacer hedge contra la posición larga que captura el 40%. Eso lo estaban explicando ahí, que era la lógica de por qué comprar futures de Bitcoin, etcétera.
If one dude goes to Singapore and creates one website that actually
Y
puts
ahorita
the
tengo
right
unos amigos que
future
están viviendo del
and the right
funding. Bueno, no
derivatives
viviendo, pues,
and
pero
make it
están
take
ahí
the
generando dinero
1, 3
con el
months, 9
funding,
year yield
con
for
posiciones
Comprando sillas,
abiertas en...
mejor dicho.
then
Mira,
somebody on
nos
earth with
mandó
capital could find
aquí
their way to that one person
saludos,
and
Cami. Saludos, Cami.
Hola,
it could bring
Cami.
$1 billion of capital or $100 billion of capital or $1 trillion of capital. So it's kind of like you got a dam. If there's a crack in the dam, all the water's flowing out of the dam. It only takes like one conduit. So the beauty of
Una sola
Bitcoin is
grieta.
that a hodler in
Claro que sí.
Alabama can buy
Estoy de acuerdo.
Bitcoin once and not touch it for 27 years. And if some entrepreneur in Singapore sets up a website and they pioneer a set of derivatives, and if they screw it up and they go bankrupt, it doesn't hurt the hodler. And when the 97th entrepreneur creates the 42nd website and they get it just right, then some capitalists will figure that out and they will find a way to create an entity to move $100 billion to close that arbitrage spread. But to do that, they're going to have to lock up the Bitcoin and they'll bid it up. And the price of Bitcoin will go up by a factor of 100. And the hodler might wake up from the Rick Van Winkle
Bitcoin
slumber
para arriba del
27 years
100x,
later and
Bullish.
find out that their
27
Bitcoin went
años.
up by a factor of 1,000 because
Dicho
somebody
por
they
Saylor.
don't know in a place they've never heard of
O sea,
did
lo que está
something
diciendo
irrational
es
with a huge
efectivamente
amount of
cuáles son las
capital
implicaciones
because
para un
it's a global money
inversionista
market, but everybody's got the
de
same asset.
tener una posición en
And
Bitcoin
so
de
that
largo
makes the
aliento
chain as strong as it's strongest.
y
Later,
cómo puedes
Esto no es
ayudar
relevante para
a...
ustedes mortales porque ustedes no
and,
tienen
and
ni cerca la
it's the
cantidad de dinero que
it's
tiene
fragile
Papi
and a
Saylor.
fragile
Claro,
system
pero, o sea, pero imagínate
of a
esa idea que
centralized
están
entity,
lanzando
and if
ahí,
anybody shuts
tú
down
poder
my
como hacer
arbitrage,
el
if anybody
movimiento
shuts down
del
my
dinero sin
functionality anywhere on
necesidad
the planet, I
de cómo
can't
sería la
offer it
inversión de
everywhere
un
else.
capital sin necesidad de
That's the
salir de tu
fragility
posición
of
en Bitcoin,
centralized
sino
systems.
emitiendo deuda
But in a
contra eso y con el
decentralized
crecimiento
open
que pueda tener
system,
el Bitcoin,
if anybody on the planet
cubrir
can do
el
something
préstamo. Más o
intelligent
menos
to
lo que ha
erase
hecho él
everybody
Sí, sí.
else
emitiendo notas
benefits.
de MicroStrategy.
And there's a lot of risk to trade and there's a lot of risk
No, sí,
to
sí, eso
operate.
es válido para cualquier
And
tamaño de pleb.
someone might set it up and fail, but the next person will succeed.
Yo me
So
compré
the
una compu
bottom
así.
line is CZ and Binance and
Dije, bueno,
Sigue
no voy a
and
gastarme esa cantidad de
doing stuff that we
dólares
can't do in
en
New York
Lo
Bitcoin
City.
sacaste
que
por
Benefit
on-chain
people
capital.
in New
¿Por dónde
York
lo
City
sacaste?
and people
no
not
por
in New York
Leden.
City.
Ah, por
And
Leden, sí,
nobody
claro.
can stop it. And we don't even
Y
have to understand
bórralo.
it. And you don't have to play the
No,
game.
no soy
I agree.
Michael
Like
Saylor emitiendo
when I
deuda
enjoy my
contra
juggle games, I don't
Cripto
want to
Bastardo, pero bueno, al
engage in
menos me
complicated
puedo
stuff
comprar
to
una
get a
computadora
18%
emitiendo deuda
yield
contra
that's
Bitcoin.
taxable that results in 12% after tax and risk
Y
weighted
es más o menos lo que él
And
estaba
maybe I've
diciendo al
got a
principio,
regulatory issue and maybe
obviamente
I
con
couldn't do it.
con sus distancias,
I
pero
can't do it
esta
on
idea
my
de
exchanges
bloquear
anyway,
capital en
but I can
Bitcoin
just sit and do nothing
que no
and
lo vas a
benefit from
utilizar
it.
por un tiempo,
And
pero que sabes
I
que
think
emitiendo
Preston's
deuda contra
But
ese
I'm gonna
capital
cheer
que
on
estás
I'm
bloqueando,
gonna cheer
puedes
on these people that are
entonces
juggling these risk trades. I
recuperar
highly encourage you to
la
keep
cantidad de Bitcoin que tengas
That's
bloqueado.
great for everybody.
Y bueno, como decía Atlas, eso
Well,
aplica
it's
para el
trading
bolsillo de
money market.
Michael y para cualquiera de
Just
nosotros
like a
plebs
competitive
aquí
banking market is if
chiquitines.
Jack can create a better bank than Bank of America, he
Ajá,
wins.
está hablando de
think this
bancos,
is-
bancos,
I
bancos,
wrote the
bancos.
other day, for the first time in history, the free market has come to money.
That's right. And this is the best part is because it's immediately settled, and you're dealing with stable coins and getting this immediate clearance. People who are accustomed to traditional finance are looking at these antics and they're saying 50x leverage, that's insane, this is all going to blow up. No, it's not, because it's traded 24/7, right? Immediately settled. And if you're on the wrong side of the trade or you're too leveraged, you blow up. Person who's actually on the other side of the trade is safe and sound, because we're dealing with things that settle immediately. Jack's building it,
Sí,
right?
hay
We're
margen, no hay
bringing
crédito. Eso
brand new
se
100
permite
buck
muchas
penny or
cosas
whatever it
nuevas.
is to whatever
Y
currency
está
you want to
ahí
receive it
describiendo
in,
cómo
and it settles
funciona
immediately. So when you're setting
los
up derivative
instrumentos de
exchanges,
especulación, pero
and
también esta
traditional
idea de
Wall
que
Streeters aren't
Bitcoin
accustomed to
o
what that means,
tu red
an
o el activo como
over-collateralized
tal
environment.
sea capaz de ofrecer
It's
liquidación,
two
sea un
different
activo
economies that
tan
are being constructed side by
efectivo
side. They're
para
incongruent with
liquidación de
each other. And if
capitales,
you're doing business the
que
old way,
funciona
fractional
24 horas,
reserve,
7
where
días a la
it's
semana, a diferencia
under-collateralized,
de
you're
cuándo
going
está
to have
abierta
your
la
bell rung
bolsa
so fast
o
that you just
donde
can't
sea
even
que tú tomes
comprehend it.
exposición
And I'm
contra
here for it.
derivados,
And I'm here
etcétera.
for it. I'm here.
Let's let Jack elaborate on that a little bit, because some people watching may not fully understand what Jack is doing.
No, quieren saber más de cómo funciona la
I'll let you
liquidación
take it away,
utilizando Lightning y bueno, ¿quién mejor que Jack
Yeah,
para
there's a
hablar
lot
de
of
eso?
topics. I have a lot of thoughts. The first, in relation to what Preston's talking about, you're talking about a money that's natively digital and physical, and it lives within a network that achieves all the properties of existing monetary networks. It defines identity, it defines payment standards for sending, payment standards for receiving. There's no sense of credit within this network. There's no sense of counterparty risk within this
Me voy a
network.
subir un
All
poquitico
of
de
that is
volumen
solved
que
by
no
math and
perro
cryptography.
ladrando.
Oh, by the way,
Dale, dale.
you can engineer more features on top of it. So betting against the existing feature set or the existing usage of the network is betting against humanity and human life itself, because you're effectively
No apuestes
proxying a
contra
bet
Bitcoin, te
against
está diciendo
engineering,
Jack.
which would be the most nonsensical, asinine, stupid thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And so what's happening within the Bitcoin community is Satoshi laid a
Jack le
thin
da
layer of
dura
initial
es.
design to cement the monetary policy and a lot of the characteristics that represent the best form of money of all time. And then as engineers, we get to just hack on top of
Este
it.
Jack me cae
And the
mucho
recent
mejor que el otro
development
Jack que me
that Preston
baneó.
is referencing is that we've added near instant
Sí, el
cash
Jack de Twitter
finality
a
and
ese se
extremely
pone muy
cheap
surdete,
or
globalista,
practically
feo.
free cash
Este
finality
sí es
to an
original
asset
hasta la
class,
médula.
into a physical digital commodity that is inherently global and
No, y
operates on a
además tiene
network that
ese
it operates
pues
24/7,
Jamiroquai
365.
Talks. Es que con ese
And
gorro se
so if you
parece
think of
bastante
that,
a
I don't give a fuck if you
Jamiroquai.
like Bitcoin, if you think that the
Pero
color's
este
weird,
pana
or
tiene esa
people are
energía
Twitter.
de
If
destruir
you just
todo,
live
vale,
within
claro que sí, pero
that
destruir
framework
creando, que es lo
of
arrecho
properties
de
that money
Bitcoin.
has,
No, ese
it's very obvious
optimismo
that it's
radical de que se puede hacer
monumental
una vaina
advancement in
buena
money as a
con Bitcoin.
technology, and that no money has been able to carry those properties and characteristics. It's inherently global, 365, 24/7. It lives within a distributed network. There's no central point of failure.
Sí,
There's no
o
sense
sea,
of
que
credit. There's no
ahora
counterparty risk. It
el
has the
dinero
sufficient
vaya a ser
liquidity in
tan
any currency to ever
accesible
trade
como el
wealth.
Internet a
And
nivel
it's in an open
global,
system. So
con
everyone, to
transacciones
Michael's point, in an open
internacionales,
system, new network participants are
instantáneamente,
additive, even
con
competitors.
consenso.
That's just by definition. That's not
Eso
exclusive to
va a
Bitcoin. That's
ser
just how
un
networks
mundo
work.
nuevo,
In a
un mundo nuevo.
that means they're not using Cash App. That's subtractive. That participant is subtractive. In an open system, the fact that someone else spins up a Lightning service or Bitcoin service is additive. You're natively interoperable in an open system. And so all of those things it's fascinating. We're making monumental advancements in money as a technology. This is probably the largest,
Hay una cosa que
outsized
está
impact
mencionando y que me parece súper
any
interesante, que
group
es
of
esta
people
idea
can
de que a
collectively
pesar
make
de
on
que el
society.
dinero es
And it's a
algo
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
que
thing.
nosotros
I
damos por
literally every time you
sentado, es
talk, I
una
just pull up the
tecnología.
banner that says preach.
Y
I
Bitcoin
thoroughly
es
enjoy your rants.
una evolución
Let's
de esa
huddle. I know I
tecnología.
left you last.
I'm out.
Everybody's
Y bueno.
bitching. Okay, yep.
I've got to leave. I'm so
Preston?
sorry, guys, and I'm sorry to interrupt. This
Preston
is
Pysh está
amazing.
diciendo
Trust me,
que
I
se
wish I
va,
could stay.
pero bueno.
That's
bueno.
okay.
Painful for me to leave.
Adiós,
right now.
Preston.
He
Bueno,
forewarned me,
y
and don't
nada,
worry,
que
I
la
have
evolución natural de la
somebody
tecnología del dinero
that will
que es
be jumping
Bitcoin
in on Preston's behalf
también
in just a second. But
se
Preston, thank you for being here.
ve
I'm going to get Paul's
como
thoughts and then I'll come in
mejorada
Such an honor to
con
be
lo
with
que
all
se
you
puede
guys.
hacer
Good to see you, buddy.
con una red como Lightning Network
All right.
que
So,
permite la
anything you
misma
want to add
liquidación,
on
la
to
misma capacidad de
Preston's topic?
liquidación
Can
de
I
la
just-
red principal, pero a la velocidad,
Oh,
o sea,
you're
instantáneamente y muy
Also,
barato.
fuck you,
Coño, se
Greg.
quedó
You
congelado.
suck. Anyway, if you're in traditional finance and
Ajá.
you have the nice
Que
En
home,
el
the
rant
lo
handsome,
olvidé,
de
todo,
American.
wife,
todo
and all the
bien.
trappings, and you are underperforming Bitcoin, you need to
Déjame
explain
escuchar a
that.
este idiota.
Explain that to your investors. Why are you underperforming Tahini's restaurant? Why are you underperforming Bongman 420 on Twitter? Why? And why do you deserve all the lavish trappings that our society, you know, these are trophies for winners, and you are losing the fucking game. You don't deserve any of it. And all these crazy animals in the chat are coming to take it from you.
I think our next guest is going
Que
to
si
Impecable
está-
como
add on
siempre,
there.
joder.
I feel like
Si
he's only
tienes
going
un
to further
porcentaje
embolden you.
de ganancias
Matt O'Dell, welcome.
menores. Mira, se metieron a Matt O'Dell. Si tienes un porcentaje de
How you
ganancia
doing,
menor al
man?
de Bitcoin y eres un
Welcome. I
inversionista,
saw
un
you there.
gestor de capital, tienes que dar
You're feeling
muchas
like
respuestas.
that,
Era lo
bro.
que
Who
decía
the fuck am I going
American.
to add in for Preston? Well, Odell will keep us in check, I guess. So, welcome, dude. I don't know if you were, I mean, obviously you were listening. Do you have anything to add on to Preston's topic of Sat Squeeze? I'm sure.
Is basically inducing it in all of us.
Tuvo un
through
salto de
his
conexión.
intense
Sí, no
FOMO
tengo saltos de
Sí, a mí
conexión, no
también,
estoy en
situation he's
Venezuela.
put
a
us
mí
in.
también me pasó, pero ya todo está bien.
I would add to the people in
Nos
here. I
estallamos.
respect all of you motherfuckers. I'm curious, like, where you think price-wise we're gonna be at the end of this year.
Ajá. Preguntando por cuál
You
va a
know,
ser el precio al
I-
final de este año.
500K. But wait,
That's it?
like within this year,
Thank
like
you.
that's not like in December.
December 31st. December 31st.
Siempre ponen a Saylor
2021.
incómodo con esas
I'm
preguntas
gonna say
porque me
500.
imagino que por su posición de CEO
MicroStrategy
no
has
puede
like
decir mucho sobre lo que él
120,000 Bitcoin
especula del
underscores.
precio. Y
Things are really
Sí.
heating up. Where's Bitcoin? Where's
Sí,
Bitcoin
está,
at
está
this
viendo
point?
para los lados ahí, ya lo vi.
You know what? I don't in a long enough time frame, Laura, it is indeed going up forever. But I don't think we're past cycles. I'm gonna break from
going up forever,
Michael's,
Laura.
Assumption. Oh, I don't know if that's fully your assumption. I know that in general you think it's going up forever, but I do think we do see those big corrections still. The reason I say that is because fucking Doge is through the roof. There's still
Okay.
morons like Jim
Está diciendo
Cramer
que, bueno,
celebrating
vamos a seguir
selling
viendo
half the
correcciones
stack.
y se
There's
refiere al
still
caso de
so
Doge
much
concretamente,
irrationality,
que
which
está
hasn't
ahorita en
even
unos precios
begun. Paris
absurdos,
Hilton just dropped
lo
an
que quiere decir
NFT.
que hay como
Like,
una
this-
bonanza
It's
exagerada, un optimismo
2017
exagerado en el
with
mercado,
like a line of coke
que
is
al
what's happening
final
right now. And I think that we
puede
do see
terminar
cycles, but
tan mal
I
como
think that less and
cuando
less people give a shit
vas
about
a
the
una
cycles because they're
fiesta,
thinking longer than
subida de
2 months
tono
ahead.
y al
So
día
I don't
siguiente
know,
tienes
like
que
if
pagar la
Michael, if you
resaca,
want to
¿no? Bueno,
reply to that,
hablando un poco
do
sobre
you
esa
think that the
idea,
cycles are diminished
que bueno,
or
quizás
done
el
for
ciclo
500K?
alcista le
I
va
don't
a
think the
seguir
cycles
un
are extreme as they were before
ciclo bajista fuerte.
March of 2020. I think if you look at Bitcoin daily chart, if you look at the chart every single day since March of 2020, you see this pattern of serpentine growth where we advance by 30%, come back 15, advance 40, come back 20. And I almost see some of the volatility coming out. So I think that the institutions, they're going to have a damping effect on the upside. Like you're probably not going to get a parabolic 10x like over a month or 2 months, but they're going to have a damper on the downside. You're not going to get these crashes either. You're going to have speed, guardrails on either side. And otherwise, I think the primary driver is just going to be the wall of institutional money coming here. But maybe we could just segue to that. Why am I bullish? I'm bullish.
Do it.
I can't give
Michael
you a price
genio.
when lawyers are watching. I get in trouble. So I can't give you a price.
Ahí está diciendo lo que nos comentaba Atlas, que
I have
no
no
puede
lawyers
comentar
watching.
tanto sobre los
I try to
precios
figure out
porque
to talk in all caps. This is
puede
what I
meterse en
think.
problemas.
But,
I disagree with caps. You should just do lowercase.
Oh, really? Lowercase now?
Mhm.
Okay. What I do think by the end of the year, I think that we're certainly going to have ETFs in the market, and that'll be a big thing. And I think we're going to see all the major banks offer Bitcoin as a fund. You saw Morgan Stanley did it, but I think it's reasonable that you'll see Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Citigroup, et cetera, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. I would think that the top 4 and top 5 banks by the end of the year will be offering Bitcoin funds. And you've already seen about 12 of notable influencers over the past 3 months flip to be, they went from being anti or skeptical Bitcoin to acknowledging that it's around to stay. So there's if Morgan Stanley had 18,000 people out there talking about the fund, you multiply that by 5, and I think you'll have 100 to 250,000 or more of these advisors for these banks starting to talk about it, and there's going to be a gradual spinning up process that will be good long term for the stability of the asset.
Awesome.
So
I'm gonna
wait, so Michael, just to get you on the record here, above or below 500K at the end of the year?
Qué hijo de
He
puta,
can't even
Matt.
answer.
It's going up, Matt. It's going up forever.
Forever, Michael. Forever.
It's going to go up and then come down and then go up and come down. But generally it's going to be moving in the upward direction.
So I want to.
Qué jodedor, Matt, ahí tratando de meterle a juro
reason for being bullish
cifras.
too.
No, pero Michael es muy
bring
zorro como para dejar.
a little bit of a surprise
Sí,
into
eso
the
sí,
mix
ahí
here.
se notó, ahí se notó.
This is a gentleman that very much contributed to my lack of shitcoinery. He very much pointed me in the right direction. He helped me along in my early journey of Bitcoin. He was putting out content like none other, and he was like a voice of reason through the shitcoinery of the days of old. And I hope that a number of you on the stage will know and have seen his shows previously. He recently, well, not recently, over the last couple of years, he's gradually gone dark, and he's gone on to greener pastures, though he is still an avid Bitcoiner. But that's what you can do when you are a Bitcoiner. So I would like to welcome into the show Vortex.
¿Viste?
Vortex. That watched early on. Dude, welcome. Happy to have you here. You messaged me.
Vortex es un clásico de la creación de contenido. Se había retirado, dijo que iba a cerrar su podcast, pero bueno, está volviendo.
First of all, man, let me just shout out everybody in this chat. Everybody has been keeping Bitcoin because of the people in this chat. The price keeps pumping. That's what it really is. So I just have to shout out to everybody here.
Los plebs,
Michael, Jack,
running the game.
Everybody here, guys. Odell, of course, just everybody here. Like everybody. I just want to say huge shout out and just thank you so much for keeping my Bitcoin price going up and going up and going up higher and higher. And I just can't thank you guys enough for that. But really, look, it's been a crazy time. Bitcoin is now passing to be the 6th largest currency on the planet, passing up the British pound. We have Bitcoin rising to $1 trillion market cap faster than anything else. I mean, faster than Google, faster than Microsoft, faster than anybody. It still has the highest Sharpe ratio out there. I mean, virtually everyone who has ever said anything bad about Bitcoin in the press has now rescinded that and backtracked and said something good about it.
Hasta Michael Saylor, que había dicho en su momento que estaba en contra de Bitcoin, ahora bueno, está aquí en un show de Bitcoin conversando.
On Silk Road in 2012. to where we are now, I have to say it's been an absolute epic journey to watch this go, to see people like Michael come in here, to see the community grow, to see the Bitcoin price rise. Everyone here is really the reason why I'm bullish.
La gente volviéndose loca por
As everybody has heard this phrase saying over
Coño,
and
es
over
que se
again,
había retirado,
Bitcoin is open,
creo que
borderless, decentralized, censorship
hace,
resistant,
creo que a finales de 2019
controlled
o
by
a
no
principios de
central authority.
Sí, porque
That
2019.
yo,
is why Bitcoin is
yo no
winning,
sé
and
quién
it
es,
will win
nunca
and
lo he
continue
visto.
to win, and it will not stop winning for the next
Es
1,000
un bicho que
plus
crea
years.
contenido super OG, o
I've been
sea,
missing your show,
de los
dude.
podcasters,
Come
de los primeros
on.
podcasters, Bitcoin
This
only,
is
que bueno,
something
coño,
else.
o sea,
Dude,
dijo, voy a
how you
negro,
been?
no quiero estar más expuesto, tal, voy a
I've
hacer
been
otras
good. I've been
cosas.
good. I've been enjoying
Estaba
Bitcoin
hablando de
retirement.
cómo está y tal.
Starting my own thing, doing my own stuff outside of Bitcoin. It's been pretty fun. But of course, I can never fully leave Bitcoin, so I've been paying attention for the most part as much as I can to everything. I don't understand the laser eyes. Yet
Se retiró de Bitcoin y que no entiende qué es lo de laser eyes, pero bueno, o sea, no puedes retirarte completamente de Bitcoin, ves que está
after my
aquí.
time, so I'm not quite sure. But look, the things that Jack is building. I mean, every time I look around, Jack's got a new announcement with the Lightning Network. I don't understand how he does that and still sleeps. But
he doesn't sleep.
I had to come in.
Man.
I just heard this was the place for Bitcoin mega bulls, and so I had to come on and say hi.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're gonna keep this shit rolling. And since we're just busy boosting Jack up, I'm gonna let Jack drop his reason for being bullish. So take it, man. What's up? What's in your mind?
You know what? I gotta admit, I was a little and still am a little confused on how this show works because Bitcoin is designed to pump forever. It's part of the Matt. Yeah, that's a Matt Odell
Going
quote.
to pump forever.
And so, if you understand Bitcoin, you're inherently bullish because you understand it. So I don't know if I need to give a particular reason. It's
whatever the fuck has you jazzed at the moment, and that can include what you're building. Like if you want to just drop a CNBC style rant on fuck everybody and fuck the system, you can go do that right now all you want, whatever you think, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to shill what I'm building. Why am I bullish Bitcoin? I think the beauty of Bitcoin lives within its simplicity, in that we were able to engineer collectively as a community software that can execute on what's been pretty well known as the properties and characteristics of money that would be able to retain and store value and appreciate against shittier assets, shittier collectibles, shittier nation state issued currencies. And it's the design of the system. And if you can create a monetary asset that has known issuance, known monetary policy, fixed in supply, no reliance on any central authority, cannot be co-opted by emotional human beings. In theory, it's going to pump forever measured against particular shitty pieces of paper. And
Estar subiendo para siempre comparado con monedas de mierda y bueno, viviendo en Venezuela se los aseguro que sí.
I'm just going to overlay some very simple
Allá usan shit.
Ahí
no es cuando pierde sentido eso, ¿no? Cuando la relación de valor entre algo tan valioso como Bitcoin y el dinero con el que uno compra bienes y servicios pierde todo sentido porque el dinero no vale nada.
Usually, there are two options when you're in debt. Typically, if you're just like a normal pleb. One, you pay it back like a good man, like a citizen, like an honest man. And the other is you default on it, usually. Is the United States going to pay back the debt they're in? No, it's not an option. Is the United States going to default on it? Are they going to call BlackRock and say, oh, all those government bonds you guys have been buying and all the money? Sorry, I kind of fucked it up. I gambled I put it all on red at the casino, and I'm defaulting on the loan. That's not an option either. And so you'd probably be perplexed and be like, what the fuck are they going to do with this debt? Except they have a cheat code where they have a third option. They can just print more of the money. And then instead of becoming the lender of last resort, they're the buyer of last resort. And what you're experiencing today is unprecedented macro environment where asset inflation is scorchingly high. The only thing that's going as parabolic as Bitcoin is asset inflation. And that's because, you know, Bitcoin is a proxied measurement and an index on asset inflation, probably the most accurate one. And so what's happening is you've got a world that's in debt, that cannot pay it back, cannot default on it, and has no choice but to pump Bitcoin. They have no choice. And whether they know it or not, they have to print more dollars, and those dollars have to flood into harder assets, whether that's real estate, whether that's precious metals, whether that's Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is designed to accrue against this exact macro environment. For those that have been around for a decade, this is how we built this fucking thing. Houses don't have every 4 years.
Está recho, Michael.
You know, like Chicago real
Jack
estate's not
siempre.
having every 4 years.
Está diciendo que va a seguir subiendo
year
Bitcoin por siempre
2141,
y la
there's not, it's not
justificación
gonna be
para eso, que
mathematically
no son
impossible
comentarios a
for
lo
me to
loco,
buy
es
the
que,
fucking
bueno,
penthouse with a women's closet in it
el
and build another
contexto
floor on top of this
macroeconómico
building.
hace que los
In
gobiernos van a
2141, it
tener
would
que
be
seguir imprimiendo dinero que va a seguir
Trent
yendo
Griffin waves
hacia
$250
activos
million in
más
someone's face. They're gonna go
escasos
build that.
que
It is
pueden conservar de
mathematically
mejor forma el
impossible
valor, y
to
entonces
mint
mencionaba
another
real
Bitcoin
estate
that
o
exceeds
propiedades,
21 million.
metales
Real
preciosos
estate doesn't
o en
have
el caso
every
de
fucking
Bitcoin,
4
bueno,
years.
Bitcoin.
Gold
Así que,
issuance
bueno.
is totally outside of our control. If engineering gets good enough, to Michael's point, we're gonna we're gonna go mine the fuck out of gold. If the incentives are there.
Están
And
hablando
so,
también de
no,
que
you're living in a
no
world where, and
están...
we all knew this was coming. The only way out
Si
is
los
to print your
incentivos son
way out.
suficientes, se
And
va a
inflate
minar mucho
assets
más
around
oro,
it. And Bitcoin was
lo que
designed to
también
be the
devasa
hardest
el
of those
valor del oro
assets and
en
to
ese caso
appreciate
porque añade
against when it's
mucha
an
más
absolute mess
oferta
until
y
it
bueno,
collapses.
haciendo
And
el
so why am
caso
I
de por
bullish? I don't
qué
know. I read the
Bitcoin
white
va
paper.
a
I remember
pompear
sitting in the
para
kitchen with
siempre.
my dad when I was 18 years old, and he explained it to me. I'm like, okay, so we just are gonna, as a family, buy a lot of this thing and just be rich as fuck and watch everything else collapse. Got it. Understood. Bullish for the rest of my life until I die. And that's why I'm bullish.
I love it. And to your point on housing, like there was just an article the other day. I'm in Canada here, and the average price of a house in Canada is now right in around $750,000. The average price of a house in Canada.
Está
It's
hablando de
fucking
cómo se ha
insane. Like, what
encarecido el
average
mercado
person
de
has that
propiedades
money
en
to put even
Canadá
a
y en
down payment
general,
at like
seguramente en sus países, quienes
5%
nos estén viendo
on
por
a
allí
house like that?
también habrán
Mostly
visto que ese
nobody.
mercado se ha
It's people
encarecido
that are
también
using it
como
as a
consecuencia de la
hedge
idea
against
de
what they
añadir más
know is
masa
shitty
monetaria que
currency. But
busca entonces
I
activos más
digress. I'm going to
resistentes a la
pass this,
devaluación.
given what your topic was. I think
Ayer se pasó,
Michael
Jack siempre se
Saylor,
pasa.
considering you've based your entire treasury strategy on this, you might have a few words to say on what Jack just
Le
detailed.
hará comentar Michael sobre
Well,
eso.
I guess based on macroeconomics, we should all be more bullish that there's remarkable consensus amongst every government on earth and every politician on earth that interest rates should stay low and monetary policy should stay loose. And I think we're starting to see over the past month indications of clear inflation, right? We saw inflation in the commodities. For housing, we're just starting to get the year over year stats for housing over the past 8 weeks. I saw 11% up. I saw another stat that average house was up 15% in the US. I wonder what the housing prices are at in Canada. I saw another stat that said they were up 18%. And then
It's 30% here.
Up
You guys
30%.
have the Canadian pesos fucked, man.
Yeah, it's actually the Canadian moose shekel is what the correct term is.
Oh my God.
So, the conventional macroeconomic wisdom has been we're going to wait for CPI inflation before we agree there's any inflation. But I think that over the last 12 months, we've won over a lot of the macro hedge funds and the gold bugs, and we're going to win over the rest of the gold bugs. And, Paul Tudor Jones and Stanley Druckenmiller and Bill
Está
Miller.
escribiendo
Ray
algunos
Dalio.
inversionistas del oro, gold
I think
bugs,
we're winning them
que
over to the
se
point
están
of view that
volteando
monetary
hacia
inflation
Bitcoin,
trumps
por lo que comentaba
consumer
antes Jack,
inflation.
que se
And I also
pudiese
think
añadir
that
mucha más
mainstream media that have
oferta
been saying
a
there
lo
is
que hay
no
disponible de
inflation.
oro,
In the past
y
2
porque
weeks or
bueno, es un
3
activo
weeks,
que está
I'm
emergiendo
sensing a
como
change
reserva
in
de
the
valor.
narrative across mainstream newspapers and television.
Pero Peter
They're
Schiff,
acknowledging that it looks like there's some inflation.
No, Peter,
Even
es que Peter
amongst,
Schiff,
the most
él
conservative
no
indexes.
puede hacer eso. O
And
sea,
that's
yo
probably
conversaba
what
de
the
eso hace tiempo con
inflation
un
issue
pana
on the
acá
forefront
venezolano
of everybody's
y
mind and all the conventional
o sea,
indicators
es difícil,
that
es
haven't been
difícil
waiting for
después de
signs of
tantos años
inflation
dar
before
el brazo a
expecting.
torcer y
Maybe
lo que ha hecho
this
es
next 6
mercadear a
months,
su
I
hijo,
think maybe we start to see them
Spencer,
looking for their
que en
quote-unquote
Twitter
inflation
lo
edge.
putea cada rato
And
y hace las delicias de todos los bitcoiners,
I
pero
love
bueno, o
it.
sea,
Let's
eso es marketing para posicionar al
the
hijo
chat is
también, ¿no?
shouting at me to
Como
toss it to
héroe
Jeff.
bitcoiner
So
contra el
Jeff, do you have any
máximo
add-ons here?
antihéroe
sí,
del oro.
yo no considero a
we
Spencer
talk
Schiff
about the
un pleb.
housing is for instance. If you
No,
go
para
back to
nada,
before
para
this
nada,
recent
para
time
nada.
with
Todo se ve
staggering
demasiado
stimulus,
armadito, todo se ve
remember,
demasiado a
over the last
propósito.
20 years, there was $185 trillion of extra stimulus globally. That stimulus is why houses go up, right? So the only question you have to ask is there going to be another 185 trillion over the next 10 years? And if you realize that the market has to,
Jeff está
if you
hablando de
understand the
todos los
real macro,
estímulos que ha
we
habido en la
exist, I think,
economía global en los años
to
anteriores y
kind of
bueno,
build on what some of the others have
viendo el
said.
caso
We
sobre
live
qué
in an
pasa si eso se
inflationary
sigue
system
repitiendo
that there
como se
is
está
no way
repitiendo
out.
ahora.
If you let it fail, the counterparty risk falls all the way down to the sand, and there is no money backing it. So so every bank collapses, every institution, every government collapses. So you cannot let deflation happen. But we live in a technological driven world where we get more for less because of technology. So those two forces are fighting against each other, and so no matter what happens from now on, the existing system cannot get out of it, and it has to keep printing, no matter what. Because the minute it stops, everything unwinds.
El sistema
So
tal y como
that's what the
funciona hoy
existing
por hoy va a
system looks
tener que
like.
seguir
And
emitiendo
so
deuda
it's kind of
y
when we talk about
o sea,
price of Bitcoin and pumping a Bitcoin,
que
who
es
could give a fuck?
algo que
Right?
favorece el
Because
precio de Bitcoin, pero
because in general,
en
Bitcoin will go
qué
up against every
realidad
other asset class
vamos a
forever.
estar
But
con
you're
cada vez más
measuring in a fiat
deuda en las
currency when you're
economías
when you're
globales,
talking
¿no? O
about
sea,
price of Bitcoin, and kind of
como es el lado
reinforcing that
agridulce de
houses will
que
come
en
down
qué
against
mundo vamos a
Bitcoin,
ser
everything
millonarios
will come down
teniendo
against
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin
¿sabes? ¿Qué
forever,
clase de mundo?
because that's the natural technology brings
Sí,
prices
yo pienso
lower.
en eso todo el tiempo.
And the only reason why prices are going higher is because
Mad
the
Max.
system is manipulating prices to go higher forever. If that manipulation were to stop, you would see the truth. So if you now go up, but it's not just the U.S. It's every single country in the same boat, trying to drive the same thing. So the real risk, the tail risk, is what that causes to humanity, right? Because you're picking the pockets of most of the people and you're giving it to other people, giving it to the rich. And it's easy to turn governments when you do that. So you live in a system today that is not a free market system, and it needs to control. It needs to print more, manipulate. Corruption kind of breeds on that, and that system will get worse. It'll keep getting worse. Bitcoin is the antithesis to that system. It is the truth. And if you measure in Bitcoin, you'll see that truth evolve more and more in everything.
I'm going to put HODL on the spot to follow up really quick because he's actively pouring. Go.
Shit, I fucking forgot what we were talking about because I was making myself listen.
That's exactly the response I was hoping for.
Well, whatever Jeff said is right because Jeff is fucking smart.
Yeah, it's a downward spiral, right? It just there's
Jeff lo que estaba
no
haciendo era
other way
comentando
out that
también esa idea
is
de que si la economía
viable,
está basada en deuda,
especially with
es inviable que dejen de emitir deuda.
when it comes to
Entonces,
politicians, like you're not going to come in and be like, yeah, we're going to do
cuando uno
austerity.
entiende eso y
It's not gonna
entiendes
fucking
cómo
But
ese
build on
contexto
that,
macroeconómico
and that's what
influye
actually
también en
people are
el
starting to see
precio
in
de
Bitcoin, and
Bitcoin,
that's actually what's
pues
bringing
bueno,
in the
te das cuenta de
big
que al
money.
final
When you actually start
el
digging into
meme
this,
It's
what
going
you
up
realize,
forever,
what you
Laura, tiene
realize
bastante
is
sentido,
the
pues
existing system
no,
has no way out, and so
no,
what
no hay
they're telling
forma
you
de...
through
O sea, no hay
socialism, through
forma de que
anything else,
si
through
todo el
no
tiempo
matter
vas a estar
which actor
emitiendo
in the
mayor
existing
deuda
system,
contra el sistema económico en el
they
que
are
te
telling
mueves,
you that the only way
activos
the
que
existing
tienen
system wins is by
por su propia
complete destruction of
naturaleza
the free
más
market.
resistencia a
It's the
ser
only way that it works. It concentrates
devasados, a
all
ser
power eventually on
devaluados,
axes
van a ganar entonces en precio, pero ¿qué
Bitcoin's the opposite of that
tan
system. It puts the power
significativo
in
sería ese
individuals
aumento de
and
precios? O sea,
entrepreneurs
les
and
aseguro que ser millonario en bolívares no
That's
es
what the
nada,
fight
o
is
sea,
about.
no importa. Será hacia allá, hacia
Odell,
donde está
how does this
apuntando el
play out?
dólar. O sea,
They
ser
full
millonarios en
control
dólares no
versus zero
significa nada.
control. What wins?
So I'm just gonna go for it. Sailor,
Go.
I respect the fuck out of you. Why are you concerned that you have 90,000 Bitcoin in a custodian? Like, should MicroStrategy hold their own Bitcoin?
Joder, Matt se puso arrecho aquí preguntándole de una vez a Saylor que si está preocupado por tener 90 y pico de mil de Bitcoin en custodia. Uy.
You know, when we started thinking about buying it, we had a choice. We could have acquired a lot of Bitcoin through a fund, and then we would have been locked into a custodian forever. But we decided to buy the underlying naked asset so that we would have control over the custodian. And right now, my view is you want to own Bitcoin, and for most people, most corporations and individuals, my advice would be buy as much Bitcoin as you can, buy it. But if you're not in the position to self-custody it immediately, buy it through an agent or some avenue where you have the
Está
option to
explicando que si no
self-custody in the
puedes tener
future
la autocustodia,
when
bueno, al
the
menos
time
compra
comes.
todo lo que puedes.
There could be a time when MicroStrategy will self-custody, and we have the option to do it as a
Que bueno, eventualmente
as a publicly
MicroStrategy
traded
puede ser
company, I have
autocustodio.
all sorts of compliance and charter and corporate governance issues and accounting issues that I have to work
Pero claro,
through in
como
order
una
to
corporación
to
tiene
properly
temas de
assure
gobernanza,
all
temas de
constituencies
cumplimiento,
that we manage
no
the
es tan fácil, no es
corporation's
como uno que
assets
compra y si tú eres un
properly.
pleb, compra y saca de
And
una vez. Tú no
that
tienes
doesn't
esas
really
excusas de que
preclude
tienes que cumplimientos ni
switching
nada.
custodians, splitting
Compra y
custodians, or
para la buchaca,
self-custodying.
compra y para la
But
buchaca.
in the first 12 months,
Bueno, hay que calmarse también porque
this story
Binance
would
cobra
definitely
bastante
fall
cuando vas a retirar,
run.
entonces.
Ahí está el secreto. Sacas una cheatcoin cualquiera barata a Fixed Float y en Fixed Float te mandas Lightning a tu monedero, que ojalá sea compatible el Lightning Bitcoin y bueno, ahorras los 25 que te quiere quedar si se...
I think the way this thing ends with regard to
A Michael no le
Eso
debe
me lo
interesar
tienes que,
pagar esos
eso me lo
25
tienes que
dólares.
explicar, Javier.
the economies are going to inflate,
Pero vale,
and
claro
they're
que sí.
going to do that until
No,
they
Michael no
can't.
tiene un peso.
Right now they're not paying their bills with taxation, they're paying their bills with inflation. Weak currencies, weak economies are going to collapse. Some countries will lose their currency
Oh shit.
privileges. They're just going to
Oh shit, ya no quiero colapsar más, Michael, ya no.
The strong countries
Las
will.
pequeñas economías van a colapsar, ya colapsamos, ya qué más.
I'm an optimist.
Ey,
I
¿tú
believe
qué harías? ¿Te vas
the
de
United
Venezuela?
States and Europe will
Coño, yo hoy por hoy me quedo porque, bueno, no, migrar a donde con papeles de necos es difícil, pero si la vaina se pone más sádica, obvio. Tampoco así.
America, it's good for American technology. It'll be good for the dollar. It'll be bad for the weakest currencies. Then at some point, they'll realize they can't keep expanding the supply of all the monies. They'll slow it down. We'll move with moderation, and the government will start to pay its bills with taxation. There'll be political maneuvering. Who should pay the tax? Will it be corporations? Will it be an income tax? Will it be a capital gains tax? Will there be some other contribution? The world will restructure itself rationally, but in a world where half of the money is Bitcoin, it'll be some kind of peaceful negotiation with all of the entities involved in order to build a better world based upon a better technology.
Bueno, está diciendo allí que si la mitad del dinero eventualmente migra a Bitcoin, a pesar de que haya esa destrucción de pequeñas economías, para arreglarlo, para llegar a un nuevo equilibrio económico en el mundo occidental, habrán negociaciones que serán más pacíficas. Ojo, esto dando por sentado que sí van a tomar su custodia, pues.
We can't keep doing what we're doing forever but the current amount of debt we can sustain. And in the future,
Mira lo que puso Bake.
like I think all the politicians know something will have to change in the future. I believe, Matt, I like the idea that MicroStrategy could take custody of its own Bitcoin when and if it needs to. It won't happen this year.
Ajá,
But,
MicroStrategy
you know,
va a tener custodia de
life is
sus Bitcoin
long.
este año.
And what I've said before is you can't trust any custodian. So maybe you have to move from custodian A to custodian B. Maybe you're in, if your custodian is a certain state and they change the laws, you need to move to a different state. Maybe it's a certain country and they change the laws, you need to move to a different country. Maybe you'll decide that there's a multi-signature arrangement that you trust. And I think the fact that there could be 1 billion people with their own custody, and the fact that everybody has the ability to take custody of their property is the one thing that creates or keeps the integrity of the network sound. And I think it's the one thing that gives me hope. And at the end of the day, the reason that the politicians in the Western world will negotiate in a peaceful fashion to come up with an arrangement is going to be because the companies that have the Bitcoin will have the option to move the Bitcoin to a different country or to move a different custodian. And the point that I will make in my debate with Mr. Giestra next week is that the difference between having $1 billion of gold and $1 billion of Bitcoin is if you have $1 billion of gold and I drop a bomb on your building and I kill everybody, I can dig through the rubble and take the gold. The gold will still be there. If I burn your house down, the gold will still be there. I can shoot you and take the gold. But if you have $1 billion in Bitcoin and it's protected by multi-sig passwords and you kill everybody, you're not getting the Bitcoin. And so I think that Bitcoin lends itself to peaceful resolution in a rational fashion with consequences. And I think that certain other types of wealth, like land, gold, physical, tangible wealth,
Bitcoin
they
es
lend
como
themselves
que invita a
to
que la propiedad privada sea respetada de manera más
first.
radical
I
y
think
en
you'll
ese
see that
sentido
play out.
plantea
You can see it
relaciones
playing
entre
out
los
right
agentes
now
económicos
outside
que
the
son más
US, right?
pacíficos.
Where a
Haciendo
country
el
says,
caso de
we
eso,
don't want you to
inclusive
buy
mencionaba
Bitcoin
que
anymore.
si
They might be able to
tuvieses
stop you from
un
buying it or
1.000
selling it. They
millones
can't
de
stop you
dólares
from
en
owning it,
oro físico
and they can't take it away
y
from
alguien
you.
quisiera robártelo,
And
pudiese
so I think
bombardear
that it's
tu
a great
casa
thing
o algo
for
así.
Bitcoin.
Y el oro va a seguir
So,
estando allí, pero que la
there are
seguridad
some
y la
companies
portabilidad que
that
tiene Bitcoin,
couldn't
bueno, lo
buy the
hace
underlying
superior en ese
Bitcoin,
tipo de
but I
escenarios
encourage
de
everybody that can to
compra como
buy the
para tenerlo en
Bitcoin
tu propia
and be in a
custodia. Pues
position to
estás
take custody
haciendo
of
el
their
caso
keys or
completo
to
de
take
la
custody of their
custodia
keys.
de los
And it just
Bitcoin.
depends on
Y
the
nuevamente,
entity.
bueno, la invitación es a que
Hey,
compre sus
Michael,
satoshis y
if
vaya
this is you
directo
walking, I can't imagine you
a
running.
la
You said
alcancía.
you wanted to walk before you ran.
Derecho a la Trezor.
He's gaining speed. Maybe what we can do to help him gain speed actually is I feel like this is a good topic for Vortex to jump in. Because from what I recall, we did have discussions, or you've had discussions on your show about things like Executive Order 6102, confiscation
Ahora van a
of
comentar
people's
con
gold,
Vortex un poco esta idea de la
things like
custodia, la
that.
posibilidad de
And
que gobiernos
yes,
puedan
with a
decomisar tus fondos.
as
Entonces,
Michael was
bueno,
saying,
la
and with a
importancia de que
multi-sig
puedas
setup
tener
where you retain the majority of
autocustodia
the
y
keys,
que
then
no
that
se repita
is
una orden
outside the realm of
6102 que ya
worry.
sucedió
But
en Estados Unidos contra
it's
el oro, que
possible
eso
to
no
ascertain how much you're holding,
suceda
but it's not
contra
possible to
Bitcoin.
confiscate them
Que
as
bueno,
long as
estaría
you
asumiendo
retain the
también
majority of the
ese
keys
papel de activo de
with something like
reserva,
Unchained.
activo de
Eso nunca puede pasar con
respaldo,
Bitcoin.
Just
activo
straight in a
de
custodian,
seguridad.
you could have that snap. Hey, this is the deal. Tough shit. You can't remove from this custodian. So I don't know, like Vortex, what's your take on is this going to be a peaceful revolution, or is there going to be a lot more pushback than we think?
Yeah, so we've definitely talked about this a lot on the show back in the days. For those that don't know, I did run a YouTube channel show from the year 2015 to 2020 through to the end of 2019 there. And I was on Twitter pretty much. I was on CoinDesk comment way back in the day in 2012 for a couple years, and then went on Twitter and was tweeting about Bitcoin for pretty much every single day for like 5, 6, 7 years straight. So we've definitely talked about this a lot on the show, and really, I think
Está contando ahí quién es
people
Vortex,
don't quite understand
flexing,
that this is the end
creando
days, this
contenido desde
is
2012.
revelations. However, it's not going to, be the end of the world when people when the positive side actually wins. I mean, because this is revelations. This is the two largest financial entities on this planet that could ever be fighting for their lives here, and one has a freaking one has some weighted gloves, and one is about to get owned. All right, so Bitcoin is definitely going to be coming in with the weighted gloves, and I think people don't quite see yet that anything compared to Bitcoin is literally, we're talking about beads, plastic beads versus versus actual hard solid gold. That is the difference between Bitcoin and everything else. And people also don't realize yet that Bitcoin is digital, but it's not non-physical. You can still put it put the keys inside of physical objects. And so that's another big thing. But really, people are talking about NFTs and some kind of digital real estate and things like that. But look, Bitcoin is the most valuable digital real estate on the planet, and it will be the most valuable digital real estate for the next 1,000 years to come. So anybody talking about, trying to do the NFTs are going
Bitcoin va a
to
ser la
become huge,
propiedad
of course they maybe
digital
will.
más
But let's not
importante y
forget, where this
más
all started. This all
valiosa
started with
de aquí a
Bitcoin.
1000
The very
años,
first
dice
smart
Vortex.
contract was on
Yeah.
Bitcoin. So
Está bullish
that
Por
is
aquí el
siempre,
Vortex,
also to take away.
por
And when it
siempre,
comes
por
to
siempre.
these two
Pues
systems
ya por
playing out, I
siempre.
definitely
Ya.
have been on record multiple times saying that this is going to play out for the next decade or two. This is going to play out for decades. The US dollar isn't going to just die tomorrow. Like, that's going to go on. They can, I don't think people realize they can print the debt to $100 trillion plus. They can go beyond that even. Now, can they go forever? Of course not. But they can kick that can down the road a long time. And so that is why, that's why I say this will play out for decades, because Bitcoin, we love it a lot, but it's still tiny. It is still early days. It's still early days. People don't realize, but it is still very early days for Bitcoin. And so this is going to play out for decades.
Estamos temprano.
It's not,
Van
they're
12
going to
años de
try to
historia de
throw all
Bitcoin
their
apenas.
their
Estamos
different
súper
tasks and their
temprano.
different things at it. At Bitcoin, at their different plays, they have some plays in their playbook that are still
Bullish.
left that they can do. As
Eso
Mike was
suena
talking
loco,
about
¿no?
earlier.
Pero es demasiado
But there's
real. O sea,
they're
te das
basically
cuenta de
plays.
que,
Like,
pana,
there's really
si
nothing that they
esta
can
es la
actually shoot
red
at Bitcoin and have it
monetaria
actually
digital a
penetrate
través de
in
la que
any
se va a
single
mover
way.
una
So
cantidad
what's going to happen
significativa
is
del
that
dinero del
old system
mundo.
is going to keep printing
E
money.
inclusive
It's
si
going
no
to keep
llegas a
stealing money
hacerlo,
from
si
people
no
every
se
second of
quedase
every day.
solamente como
And
una especie
Bitcoin is going
de
to keep on
oro
thriving, and it's
y
going to be like a heartbeat,
settlement
keep
layer
pumping
de
out those
ciertas
transactions every
instituciones
10
nada más,
minutes.
hay
And we're going
todavía
to see what wins.
canchita
But
para
if you put
correr.
these two systems
Así
up
que
against each other, it's pretty clear to me, and it's been clear to me
aprender de
for many,
Bitcoin,
many
a
years
entrar a los
who is
clubhouse de
actually
los
going to win.
jueves ahí
It's just
en
the
Café
thing is
Bitcoin
it's
con
win. All
Camila,
right, that's what it's
Atlas,
about. Is it's the timing.
Apex.
And Michael
Estoy
has
yo a
played it
veces.
pretty well,
Tenemos ahí un
jumping right in
team
at the bull market, but you can
en
jump in at any
Clubhouse.
time and still be profitable. Like, literally every single top in Bitcoin gets overridden every single time. It doesn't matter, So people talking about, all of this money, into Bitcoin and things like that, and all of these billionaires and stuff, but it's for the regular people as well. As long as you dollar cost average, it doesn't matter if you put $100 or $1 billion. You're going to be a part of this new system, and this system will continue to thrive, and not just survive, but thrive.
Dijo algo
for this next
súper
decade. So
importante y
put
que
the two
me
systems
gustaría
together,
comentarlo un poquito,
they're going
que
to
es que
compete,
no
they're going to
importa
fight,
si
but I don't think
tú
there's going to be
no
any type
tienes
of
el
world
capital para
war or
poner
craziness
$1.000
over
millones de
it.
dólares
They just
o si
at the
puedes
end of the day,
poner
people don't
$100.
actually want to see a war. It's bad for
Si tú
business. It's
tienes
not going to
disponible
happen.
$5
There's
para
going to be
comprar todas las semanas,
cold wars,
hazlo
and
porque vas a
cyber
tener
fights and things like
propiedad
that. But
sobre
at the end of the day, Bitcoin is going
la
to be
propiedad
still
digital más
strong with its
importante y más valiosa
million cyber
de
hornets
la historia,
continuously
probablemente.
protecting it,
Así
continuously updating the
que
code, and
no,
there's really nothing
hay que
that
dejar de
like, there's
pensar
just
esa
nothing that
idea
anybody
de
can do about
que
it.
es
Whether
muy
you like or hate
caro, de que es
Bitcoin,
muy
it's not
tarde,
going
de que ya
away.
los que se hicieron ricos se hicieron ricos. Es que
I
pensar que te vas a
will
hacer rico, ni
echo
mucho
the
menos,
sentiments
pero
of our chat
tener
here.
una
This is my
posición en
Vortex
Bitcoin
rants.
a la larga va a ser algo que puede
Yeah,
cambiar tu vida.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
We at Strike, I really deploy a mental framework on how we think about things that I think is additive to Michael's thoughts and how he's thinking about like nation states potentially competing, and that you can just up and move yourself if the United States gets a little too aggressive and how they're going to regulate you. At Strike, we think of Bitcoin as the world's first open monetary network, which I've said before on the show, and the best monetary network. But what's interesting about an open system and an open monetary network is things like that. How PayPal won. PayPal was first to market.
Open Monetary Network
PayPal can
también
win
dice Jack.
competitive pricing
Trabajando
because
en
of how
Bitcoin
big they
como
are,
una
the
red
people within
monetaria
the network that
abierta
they've built.
Y bueno,
And in
utilizando
closed
Lightning
systems,
Network es
competition and winners
instant
win
settlement,
for various different reasons.
liquidación
In an open
instantánea.
system,
Y bueno, a
winners
nivel
are
de
the ones
creación
with
de
the best
productos
experience
financieros tiene
and the best
demasiado
brand.
sentido
Right? If
como
you walk into a
contexto,
coffee
como
shop and
concepto, y
there's
que no
one
dependa de
singular
ningún banco,
open
que sea
interoperable QR
inclusivo.
code and you can scan it
Estamos
with
demasiado
millions of
temprano,
apps.
están
You can scan
creándose
it with
vainas
Coinbase, you
demasiado
can scan it
locas.
with
Estamos
Cash App,
viendo
you
a
can scan it
unos
with
carajos que
Stripe, you can scan it with
probablemente,
the
o
wallet,
sea,
open
yo
source
no creo
wallet
que
that
estos
your little
carajos tengan
cousin's
por
nephew's
qué
dad built in his free
hacer este
time. Its
tipo de
background
cosas.
color
Pues,
is
ya,
yellow
eso
and
tienen
it
su vida
makes cool
resuelta en
noises when
Bitcoin.
you scan the QR
Pero
code.
bueno, están
The
ahí.
winners, there'll be many, will be the best experience and the best brand. They'll be the ones that are free, that give you
Yo
rewards, that
necesito
care
más
about
Bitcoin.
UX, that overinvest in customer support, and the ones that your favorite basketball player is using and that your president is using. Those are the winners. And that's how we think about internally about product, and we optimize the company for the best experience and the best brand in the world's first open monetary network. Now, why I think that this is extensible to what Michael is talking about is that's a mental framework to deploy within Bitcoin generally. And I think nation states will compete aggressively in that same sense. The United States wants to come and bully me and overtax me, tell me I can't operate my company here, and say they're going to confiscate my shit. Well, I'm going to leave. And who's offering me the best experience in building the best Bitcoin brand? There's plenty of beautiful countries in this world. And the first country that says, hey, you know what, Bitcoiners, we think that you are embarking on, arguably the best generation of human life, the best quality of life humanity has ever seen, and we don't want to do any capital gains tax on you.
Está explicando qué pasa en el caso de que los gobiernos se decidan a ponerse muy fuertes con los impuestos contra los bitcoiners, que habrá países que no lo harán, ¿no? Y bueno, en ese caso los gobiernos de otros países van a entrar en conflicto y competición con Estados Unidos por atraer a los bitcoiners.
No one is a threat to me outside of myself. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's a beautiful system to live within. And so in the same sense that at Strike,
Michael está súper orgulloso de Jack, mira cómo lo ve, así como que ve.
We compete on experience because there's going to be thousands and thousands of ways in an open system. There's going to be thousands of new ones each day. That's the same thing and how nation states are going to have to begin to develop legal frameworks, taxation frameworks, how they think about custody, because if you get too aggressive in some beautiful place that's on the coast of the ocean, is going to let me build a big house and not tax me, we're all leaving. We're all leaving. And in an open system, these closed networks,
si se van a poner ahí
traditionally aggressively think about taking advantage of first to market and the existing network effects that they're built
obligar a la gente a
that doesn't
tratarla
exist
mal,
in
bueno,
this game. It
la
does not
respuesta va a
exist. You
ser
have no leverage against me.
irse.
You better treat me fairly. And the best experience is going to win. And that applies to consumer products, that applies to countries, that applies to regulatory frameworks, that applies to everything. It's an open system, it's fair game. We're starting from scratch. And that's how we think about things at Strike, but I think that's how nation states and regulators will think about things as well.
Vortex aplaudiendo. Muy grande, Jack.
What's the book I'm thinking of? God, Sovereign Individual.
The Bible.
The Bible. The jurisdiction shopping. Also, I just picked up Nomad Capitalist, which is like go where you're treated best, and jurisdiction shopping. All of that. I think it's true. I think in a global world such as this, there's going to be pushback initially, but eventually it's going to be pandering.
Esta idea de que si los individuos son realmente soberanos y que es la oportunidad que te da Bitcoin, obviamente esta idea de ir a lugares en donde tú puedas ser más soberano tiene demasiado sentido. Era lo que decía de migrar el capital o las empresas a jurisdicciones que están más cercanas a lo que sea que estés haciendo.
That's driving prices down. And as you take out labor to do that job, if you push prices up against that, you break society. So the wars and everything else that we say it's not a worry, that is a tail risk, because that's what's happening in the world today, and it's getting more and more fragile all the time while you're doing that against the natural laws of a free market and technology. That's what's happening. And Bitcoin is the antidote to that. And it enables the free market. And the abundance that comes from allowing innovation into a free market broadly to society is staggering. We can't even imagine what that looks like because we live in this corrupt system.
I think it's also important to understand too, and to remember what happened back in World War II, where they made dollars out. In Germany they made dollars illegal, but what happened?
Bueno,
Every
ahorita nos
single
estábamos
officer was stuffing their
aquí,
pockets with dollars. So you have to understand
Atlas
that's
y
happening too. Like,
yo,
we could have a potential
comunicando.
tailwind of some type of physical
Bueno,
gold.
para dar por cerrada la transmisión del día e invitarlos a que obviamente salten para la transmisión de BTC Season. Pero bueno, hemos estado aquí 1 hora y media acompañándolos, comentando este ultra super bullish episodio de
Sí, exacto.
Bullish.
No, sí, y bueno, muchas de las cosas que escucharon decir a Michael, a Jack, etcétera, son cosas que ellos vienen hablando ya de un tiempo hacia acá, ideas que ellos ya tienen resueltas hace tiempo, entonces como digamos que repasando estos conceptos y bueno, es la receta perfecta para acabar eh, el día bien bullish, porque te vas con todas estas ideas en un solo stream. Y bueno, no ha acabado, entonces te invitar, como dice Javier, a la gente que vaya y vea el stream directamente en inglés. Ya volveremos a hacer esto de manera más organizada. Ya encontraremos la manera, pero por ahora eh, desearle una buena tarde y ya, nos veremos pronto.
Bueno, brutal. Y nada, claro, vayan ahí al canal de BTC Sessions, sigue ahí todavía el stream un rato, ven inclusive que está bastante activo el chat. Y bueno, también esto fue como para estrenar esto que probablemente nos traemos por ahí en breve con Atlas, Conversaciones de Plebs. Espérenlo, que se viene,
Sí,
se viene en breve.
espérenlo, sí.
Bueno,
Pronto.
para traer cosas que seguramente se quedan mucho en inglés y que también es necesario que nosotros conozcamos. Yo creo que Atlas seguramente va a coincidir conmigo que las conversaciones en Clubhouse demuestran que hay demasiada cancha todavía para traer los temas al español. Mucha gente no sabe que se habla de Bitcoin en español, entonces bueno, también la idea es hacer esa colaboración allí entre Atlas y yo para seguir hablando de Bitcoin como siempre.
Exacto. Claro, cuenten con eso. Bien dicho, Javier.
Bueno, brutal. Gracias a las personas que se conectaron con nosotros. Obviamente, gracias Atlas por darle ahí.
No, gracias a ti, Javier,
mente y
siempre estar
cerebro.
ahí. Estamos siempre aquí haciendo servicio, tú sabes, militando. Fuerte.
Bueno, pendiente, pues gracias por acompañarnos y nada, nos vemos en el canal de BTC Sessions para seguir el live por allá.